Good evening, SHPE Familia, and welcome to the 2021 Scholarship Webinar Series. We are so excited to share with you insider resume tips today. Before we get started, some housekeeping. If you have any questions for our speaker or SHPE, please feel free to send them through the Ask a Question box or also submit them via Twitter. Our social media team will love you for it. I'll be answering questions actually with our speaker at the end of the session if time permits. If we don't get to your question during today's webinar, do not worry. A script with all the questions and answers will be posted on our scholarship webpage after this webinar has concluded. This PowerPoint deck will also be posted. And lastly, I'd like to encourage you to share today's webinar with your social networks, including Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter. We want to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to access the fabulous content that we'll be covering today. It is now my honor to introduce our guest speaker, Geni Hart Zesati-Hill, who is currently a global supply chain intern program and recruiting manager at Intel. She has been with Intel for over 20 years, so y'all need to trust me that she is a pro at this. Through her tenure at Intel, she has gained valuable experience in recruitment and hiring, program management, data analytics, benefits and compensation, talent management, employee onboarding, to name a few. Prior to her current role, she served as an analyst, staffing consultant, and recruiting coordinator. So no matter what step of the job search process you may be involved in, she has been there on the other side. So without further ado, I'll hand over the reins to Geni. Geni, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you for the lovely introduction. And welcome to everyone. Thanks for letting me join you and share some of our learnings. I have been in recruiting for about 17 years specifically. And when Lisa, my partner, she'll join us in a little bit and also talk to you. When she said, would you like to come in and do this resume webinar? My eyes lit up because resumes for me is a big deal. And I think resumes are sometimes not that easy. And I've probably have seen thousands and thousands of resumes in the past 17 years. And it's so difficult. My thing is, anyone that comes to me with a resume, it's so difficult for me not to help them and not to say, can I give you my 2 cents worth? And everyone has always been very welcome. And many times they say, gosh, no one's ever told me that. So I was super excited to come in and share with you what I've learned. And also I reached out to several managers and asked them, what do you look for in a great resume? Okay, I want to get a pulse. I want to make this interactive. We're all cozy, we're all comfortable, we're all at home or in your dorms or apartments. Let's make this cozy and comfortable. I want to know, first of all, let's use the chat box. I want to know who's in the room. What is our audience, whether it's undergrads or graduate level or PhD. So if you'll put that information in there, I can cater the material a little bit closer to who's in the audience, and Lisa will let me know. But I'm going to move on just a little bit. And also, whatever questions you have, put them in the chat, okay? I know you're in classes all the time and you're used to instructors, so I want to make this fun. I want to make this interactive. I also want to encourage you that this is just our perspective of what has worked for us, but I encourage you to go to your school and also learn from the student services and see what they have to say. So take all these little bits of information and then get what you want out of it and use what works for you and what feels comfortable, okay? I do have a couple of asks, so I want you to stay engaged. We're only together for a little bit. If you learn one thing that can change your resume, that could make the difference, the night and day difference of someone actually passing your resume on or someone not passing your resume on. So stay engaged with me and take any notes as needed. I know this presentation will be available, and then ask any questions, okay? So let's get started.
Geni, just a quick one before we get started. Hey, Esther, can you let us know if there was any responses to the bachelor's, master's, or PhD in the audience?
Yes, so we have actually quite a variety. So we're seeing more bachelors, but a few graduate students and a couple of PhDs trickling in too.
Awesome, awesome. And yeah, I'm not able to see the chat. I thought I would be, but that's okay. We're a team here. We'll figure it out.
Yep.
So quite a few years ago, I had this realization that I don't think I knew before, not knowing that managers and recruiters only look at your resume for a few seconds. That really blew my mind. I never knew that. I don't know what I assumed, but I was shocked to hear that it's really just a few seconds. It's not that managers are lazy or any of that. It's sometimes we may have hundreds of resumes that we're looking at. So we have to see what we want super quickly. So that's what we're going to focus on. What are you going to do to keep someone on your resume longer? The longer they look at your resume, the likelier that they're going to move you forward to the next step. Okay? And then Lisa, stop me if there's any questions. So let's once we cover all this, I want you to look at your resume, and then I want you to tell me what is it that stands out in your resume, and then what changes do you want to make to get you the best resume. Okay? So I kind of split it up into three, and we'll cover just, you know, in high level. What I want to do is share stories, share things that I've seen that have worked, and things that I've seen that has not worked at all. And so I want to help you with that. Organize, skill set, results. These are the key things in your resumes. Obviously, we'll cover what is an organized resume. We've seen a lot of things, like I said, that didn't work. So I want to really help you to have the best resume as possible, okay? So let's cover one by one. So, this one, I love this one because I work for Intel, been with Intel a long time, and sometimes I get a resume to my job and it says, my passion is to work for Motorola. You know, they don't even edit the objective. So they're giving you a resume that has another company's name. That's a no-no. So know that you may need more than one resume. I think you all know that. I think I've seen interns or candidates that will have different versions. I think that's amazing, and I think you need to do that. Your resume needs to match the job. So I've seen a lot of resumes where they try to cram everything into one. That really doesn't work, because I want to look at your resume and say, perfect fit. This is a perfect fit for the job. So I do encourage you to try to use more than one version, okay? And also name your resume. When we pass on 20 resumes to a manager, they might say, yeah, I want John Smith, Maria Rodriguez, et cetera. You'd be surprised how many resumes don't have a name, so they're not named. So name your document, please, okay? I like to name mine with my name and the month and year of my resume, okay? That's just an idea. I am a fan of objectives because I own the intern program. My partner owns the full-time. I want to know what you're looking for. Are you looking for an internship, or are you looking for a full-time job, or are you looking for an experienced opportunity? So I am kind of a fan of objective, but I like it more of a tagline, just a couple of lines. Again, less is more. Make it easy for us to look at your resume and quickly find what we need, okay? Education, of course, you know, that's an obvious one, but you don't know how many candidates leave out their degree and leave out when they graduate. So if you don't tell me if you're looking for internship or full-time, I can look at your graduation month and year, and I can determine where I move your resume. If I don't know what you're looking for when you graduate, I don't know what type of candidate you are, whether intern or full-time. So I have had to throw resumes away, frankly, because I don't have time to call all those resumes that don't have the information we need, okay? We know that in some cases, specifically undergrads, they may not have a lot of experience, but I would like to challenge you that in any job, even if it's working like at a grocery store or department store, there must be skills there that can transfer to that job. So if you're doing customer service, well, you can use that skill, and that's a transferable skill for certain jobs. Like in my case, I work for supply chain, we have buyers. Well, customer orientation is going to be really, really important. So you may not have been a buyer before, you may not have supply chain experience, but you've done customer orientation. So think about, how can I use and transfer this skill and make it match that job. Make sure it's concise. We see a lot of errors, and I have one manager that says if I see one spelling error, I don't move past that, because attention to detail is critical in most jobs. So if you weren't able to do your spell check, that resume will probably go nowhere, okay? And I didn't cover early on, I've seen resumes that don't have contact information, so just the name, and the email is either incorrect or you leave out the email and phone number, and so we don't know how to contact you. So we kind of see all of this, and these are real basic things that make a huge difference in where your resume is gonna go. Okay, so number 5, the bullet under number 5 is my big aha. This is one of my favorite ones. So what I tell all my candidates, you know, 3 to 4 bullets under each job, I think is a good number. That's just my opinion. But make some of those bullets be impactful. So what's the so what of your bullet? It's not, I just did this. I did this, and this was the outcome. I'll just give you one short example. So for me, I may be coordinating a lot of recruiting events, and I may say I coordinated 10 recruiting events, period. What about, here's my so what. I coordinated 10 recruiting events, and the company was able to meet 95% of their hiring goals. Now I have a so what. So I find that a lot of the bullets don't have the so what. They're just kind of, you know, one-liners with no real result. So think about having a few of your bullets have the so what. Okay, Lisa, any questions or anything you need from me?
No, I think that's good.
Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead. We have a question, Esther?
No questions yet. There are a couple, but we'll go ahead and ask them at the end.
Okay, great. So technical skills, and you all know because you're all technical students, but technical skills are a big deal for any company, and they're becoming even more and more. Your technical skills, applications, all that should jump out. For me, I like to have my top skills or areas of expertise right up front so that they just pop out. So think about that. I've had students say, well, I don't really have any technical skills yet. And I challenge you, if you worked at a grocery store and you had to use a certain machine for whatever reason, or a cash register or whatever, write it down. Those are technical, that's technical. So anything that you think is technical, put it down, you never know. Our recruiters will go into our database and look for candidates by keywords. So I may be looking for Ariba or any other keyword, and that's how I'm gonna find you. So the more keywords that you could have easily identified in your resume, again, it's gonna come up in searches. Okay. Then we'll continue. I really only have a couple of more pages. Data. Okay, data is big. So earlier I gave you an example of an impactful bullet. So I said we were able to meet 95% of our hiring goals with me coordinating these events. Quantify the impact. What is the significance? Data, percentages, numbers, that should be included, a couple at least somewhere within your resume. Remember I talked earlier about the 3 things, and one of them was results. If we can see some results in your resume, that's a great resume. Okay. We find that some candidates, they want to fill their resume with just words because maybe they don't have a lot of experience. So they use a lot of soft skills like communication or customer orientation. I would only use customer orientation, for example, if the job called for it that I was applying for. Use those competencies and those words later during your interview. Don't throw them in your resume because, again, seconds. We're looking at that resume for seconds. You want the big, impactful things to jump out, not that filler stuff on your resume, okay? That's not a good way to go. And then also, we didn't talk earlier about the size. I always get that question, how long should my resume be? Is it okay if it's 2 pages? You know, as long as you have quality information, it's okay if it goes on the 2nd page. Of course, they say 1 page is good, but I think for some of our experience or master's PhDs, it's really tough to get all that research information into 1 page. So don't be so stuck on cramming everything into 1 page. Now, once you're going into a 3rd page, my opinion is that's too much. I don't have that time. Again, not because I don't want to, but I have to move fast. I'm trying to meet our hiring goals, okay? So keep it short and brief and easy to read. We talked about misspellings, no acronyms. You might have a really cool bullet, but you use an acronym, so I have no idea what you're talking about. So think about that. And also we talked a little bit about brief. You should have bullets, not necessarily paragraphs. And then balance it out. So for me, because I've been in the workforce for a long time, my experience is going to be more important. So I'm going to have my experience up front. For students that are still in school or recently graduated, most likely your education is going to be the most relevant and most important at that time. So I would want to see your school up front. A lot of time, candidates put their school like in the bottom of the second page. So think about, how do you want to organize with what's more relevant, what's most important. Again, think about seconds, okay? And then it's nice to have obviously some career progression, some flow of, I did this and then I did this. So think about the flow. And like I talked about, what's most important first. I like to see a well-rounded candidate. I think it's great. You're all in SHPE. You're already part of an organization or an association. I love to also see some personal things. Do you have some hobbies? Do you give back to the community? Have you received recognitions in some of your jobs or in school? All of this really jumps out as a well-rounded candidate. I do find that a lot of candidates leave all that out, and I think it's great to have that. I'll just give you a story. It's just, again, my story. In one of my jobs that I applied very last minute, they'd already pretty much made a decision of who they were going to hire. And they went ahead and interviewed me because I showed up. They told me this way later. I was very equal to the other candidate, our skills or experience, but I had on my resume a hobby, which I was a marathon runner. And based on that, the manager chose me instead of the other candidate. And he told me way later, I knew that if you had run a marathon, you probably knew how to set goals and you would reach those goals. So again, think about those kind of things. Some of the personal stuff on your resume could make a difference. I don't know what, obviously there's a lot of hobbies out there, a lot out there, but think about what would be good to showcase in your resume that could help you. The last one is research, internships, and co-ops. They're a plus. If you can get an internship, and I recognize that some students, some candidates are looking for internships today, but internships mean a lot. So try to have that, of course, on your resume. But what's most important is, how did you contribute to that? What was the result? So if it was project work or your research, what problem were you trying to solve? What method did you use? And again, most important, what was the result of that research or the project? So was it a cost savings? Is it a time savings, a new model, a new tool, or just an overall improved process flow? So call out what it is, what the impact was to your research. I see many, many internships, but you really never tell us what was your impact from that internship. This is just a sample, and then I want to open up to questions. This is really just a sample. This one actually doesn't have an objective, but it's a really good sample. I put together this presentation from different people so that you would have different perspectives all in one, and you could kind of pick and choose what works for you. I'm not going to really cover this, but I know this presentation will be available to you. On this page, the big thing I want to cover is, don't get too fancy, don't get too colorful. We've seen really creative fonts that really takes away. A couple of weeks ago, I saw a resume on PowerPoint, and there's no way manager's going to have time to look at a PowerPoint and go through the PowerPoint. I've seen resumes that have a ton of color, a lot of different fonts. You know, be professional. Don't get fancy. Again, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the key things to jump out. Before we move on to the scholarship discussion, Lisa and team, are there any questions for me?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. So one of the questions is, where would you put the hobbies under? If you have a certain hobby, where within the resume would you place that information?
I do always put mine in the bottom, and it could be other. It could, you know, maybe other. Lisa, I don't know if you have any opinion on that. But for me, I would always put it under other, under my community. So I always have community, and then I have my associations that I'm involved with, and then under that I have my hobbies.
Yep, I agree. Unless it's something that of a technical nature where the business group is on a focus, like for example, esports. If you're part of esports and you just so happen to play that particular sport, that you're actually going to do an internship with, then I would probably weave that into your experience with that sport and your technical knowledge. But other than that, I agree. It should be at the bottom with your community work as well.
Mhm. And I have one
And
story that I want to share really quickly before you just reminded me, Lisa, on hobbies. So
yeah,
I had a candidate probably 2 years ago, really solid, great resume. The problem with his resume was that his hobby was all over the place. So he had chess. I guess he did a chess club in school. He taught chess. He had won chess competitions. 4 different places in his resume, I saw chess. I don't know how to play chess. I don't really know anything about it. And that's all I saw. I really didn't see anything past it. And I said, I couldn't help myself. And I said, can I give you some feedback? And he's like, yeah, sure. And I said, unless I'm hiring you to teach chess, you don't need to put it in 4 different places. I'm challenging you to put it in one place. Choose where you want to put it. Because even some of his examples, when he was talking to me, it was about chess. And so once I gave him the feedback, he really genuinely appreciated that feedback. I think I got an email about a month or 2 from him, and he said, thank you so much. No one had ever told me that. There's been such a difference in my resume and me getting callbacks, completely different. He actually landed a great job, and he felt it was 100% that he removed chess from all over his resume. So again, remember we talked about balancing. Be really careful with having too much of the same thing, because then that's all we're going to see. Okay, so I always love that story because it made a big difference in
yeah.
him landing a great job.
Exactly. Hey, I got a combination of a question. One of the pieces is really talking about where to place certain information. So you talked about having more of an experience or project research, experience work type section. Can you speak a little bit in regards to what do you do when you don't necessarily have technical related experiences? How might you still include it, or how might you include coursework into those sections?
Yeah, I like that. We actually do see a lot specifically from our undergrads. So we always see it right under the education, like you can see here, education and related coursework. This is an opportunity. If you don't have experience, you haven't had an internship, it's tough. I get it. I get it. So show some of the, I will always look at what some of the coursework is, because then that tells me if I'm looking for data analytics and I see that you're taking or have taken data analytics or modeling, then to me, you're a great candidate. We hire a lot of undergrads. We understand that someone has to give you a chance. Again, I would absolutely show the coursework, and I would show it right under the education. Lisa, anything else to add? Did I answer that question? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, and think about it as in sense of you've actually completed the course, but there was probably a project associated with that course, a lab experiment. Talk about what you did in that, because that could show how you took theoretical knowledge and you applied it towards a project or solving a problem. And so that can always help too, is using it as a project related experience.
Great.
Yep. Another question is that where would you actually place your technical skills within your resume? Do you do it above your experiences or below it? What's your recommendation?
So it's not shown here. I do mine in 2 different ways. So I put it here on the left side. I have a little section here. Of course, it's got to be balanced out, and it'll all show technical expertise or other areas of expertise, and I just list the bullets. Another way that I've seen it is right under the coursework, a little table with areas of expertise or technical, whatever you're going to put in there, and then you just put in all the words right there. Now, you may not want an actual table with the lines. I myself remove the lines or make them very faded so that it looks clean, but I like to see it like right up front. Does that help, Lisa? Anything to add?
Yeah.
Great ideas.
Nope, that's great. I think it's right prominent where it needs to be, so it actually stands out for the reader. The other thing is that, a lot of people are going through a situation where, hey, there's a gap in employment. What would be your suggestion to do during those times when you have a 3-month or even more gap in employment? How do you address that on your resume or even in an interview?
Yeah, great question. So I never, myself, okay, I've never looked at a gap in employment. I mean, specifically look at the environment the past year, how many millions of people have lost their jobs. Now, when you fill out a formal application after you've been through the whole process, you might have to fill in all those gaps. And certainly, so for me, I've never worried about that at all. I know that there are, you know, moms that go have a baby and stay at home, or students that take a break, or they might go out of the country to take care of a family member, or they may lose their job. Those are all situations. I've never actually looked at a resume. Remember, we're looking at it for a few seconds. We're never going to say, okay, wait, so he didn't work from here to here. I really don't look at that. Now, should your resume get passed to the next point of the screening or the interviews, that's your opportunity to talk a little bit about the gap. I wouldn't bring it up. Again, it may not, for lack of a better word, it may not matter. You may have such great experience that they may not ask you, hey, so I noticed there's a gap in your resume. It's an interesting question that's asked, though, because I feel like you guys might be worried about that, and I've never been worried about that. For some reason, it's never come up. When you get to interview again, if the manager asks, or you want to disclose, then that's the time to have that conversation. But remember, once you get to screening or interview, your resume is solid. You've got a great resume. You made it to that point. Okay, so feel very confident. And if it was, I lost my job, or the company, you know, went under, whatever, then just be honest. Just tell the story.
Nope, that's good feedback. Would you say that it's good to intertwine the work experience with the project experience with the research experience, or would you separate those different experiences out into their separate buckets? What's your thought?
I would separate them. So we usually see very clearly internships or project work, or, you know, research. Some of them are called co-ops. You know, some interns are either internships or co-ops. It's just easier. You know, we do like to see internships if possible. We love to see research. So I think I would organize it a little bit better. That way I can go to what I'm looking for. I may care more about an internship, but someone may care more about research work or other project.
Oh, that's good. There's, I think, two questions in here in regards to scholarships. And basically they're asking, as a graduate student, do I lean towards, you know, submitting my resume or CV, especially when I'm looking at a job opportunity, you know, after, you know, school is completed, or even for a scholarship? From a scholarship perspective, you always want to submit your latest resume. In a lot of cases, when you're being evaluated for scholarships, it's because you have clear technical skills and you've applied it towards something. Project, research, work experience, all scholarships typically ask for your resume in hand with the scholarship, you know, essay questions and that kind of thing as well. Anything to add there?
I don't have anything to add, Lisa. You're the expert in scholarship, so thanks for jumping in and answering that one.
And then the last one was really around, you know, a 3-page resume. Is that too long? I think you kind of touched base on this depending on your experience, but could you elaborate a little bit more on what's appropriate for a bachelor's, a master's, or a PhD student?
So, you know, obviously it's all going to be based on your experience, right? If you're an undergrad and have not had many jobs, maybe just a couple, you know, summer job or something, we would expect your resume to be a page. For others with more experience or other professional jobs, then you're looking at a page, maybe a page and a half. We have seen in PhDs, because of their research, those tend to be longer. I'm not a fan of 3 pages. That's my, Lisa, and you can chime in too with your perspective, but I'm not at all a fan of 3 pages. I think that's just too much information. And like I mentioned, remember the key thing. If we're only looking at your resume for a few seconds, what do you want us to see? What's really the most important thing? Okay. Lisa, what are your thoughts? Because I know you may interact more with PhD candidates.
Yeah, but I think it boils down to, you want to make sure that you're not bringing forth information that's 10 years old or 7 years old. You want to make sure that your prominent current skill set for the role that you're going after, if it's working at a technical company like Intel or working somewhere else back into academia world, that you're trying to be a professor. You may write a different resume and you may share your publications and all of that information. Just, use your gut. Your gut sense typically tells you, I've not put enough or I've put too much, but truly listen to the gut sense, because I think that will help guide you on how much content do you provide. Again, engineers and managers are looking at it quickly, so you want to convey information succinctly, and so that they can do it at a glance and know that you have that skill or you've applied that skill before.
And I think they say you generally only have to show your past 10 years of professional experience. Again, I don't know where you all are at and if you have a lot of experience, but you don't have to show everything you've done. It's okay if you have been working for a long time and then went back to school. You don't have to go your entire career. They say 10 years is okay if you only go back 10 years. Again, if your first job is very relevant to what you're applying to, and then that changes everything. Then you might want to reduce your bullets in the others, maybe add a little extra bullet in that first job, because that could be the one that's more connected, more transferable to the job you're applying to.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's another one: is if you're planning to doing a dual degree, like a bachelor's, master's degree, a lot of universities have now this 4+1 program.
Yeah.
Should you include that on your resume? Or if you're looking to go to grad school and you're still doing your undergrad degree, or in pursuit actively in your undergrad degree, should you state somewhere in your resume that you are going to pursue graduate studies?
Absolutely. So I think, if you've already been accepted, then you can show it on your resume. Absolutely. And show it. I was there when we started seeing those 4+1. At first we were like, what is this? We weren't familiar with it, but no, it's becoming more and more common. Absolutely show it on your resume, show your undergrad, and then show the additional. And in some cases, it could be a very different, we're not going to get into grades or anything like that, but an undergrad with a +1 could be a very different pay versus an undergrad. It could be, so absolutely you want to show all that education. Even if you're, you don't have to be graduating today. Even if you're graduating, I've seen resumes that show 2024 graduating. That's okay to show that you'll be graduating in the next few years.
Yeah, and sometimes, remember Geni talked about the objective section. Even if you've applied to grad school, a master's or PhD program, and you're waiting to hear back if you've been accepted, place that in your objective. Currently pursuing graduate school will start in the fall of 2021 and conclude, May of 2025. But that at least tells the reader that, hey, don't look at me for internship or for full time, because I am pursuing graduate studies. That helps. Yeah. I have one other question in here as well. Sure. Is around, I know this webinar, didn't have a focus on cover letters, but can you comment on its importance of cover letters? Is it still important? Is it not? And how much time should you invest really in a cover letter?
I've never looked at a cover letter, but I'm giving you my perspective. Again, let's go back to the seconds, okay? I don't have time to review your cover letter. I really want to see if it's that important. My belief is it's in your resume. Lisa, I'd love your perspective too, because I want them to have different perspectives and they can choose what resonates with them. I'm not a fan of cover letters. I've never looked at one.
I think it depends on if you know the person, or say if someone referred you to someone, you may not attach a cover letter, but you may put the context of, a brief summary context in the email message that you're sending to the person that you want them to consider you for a job. And so think of it in that sense. It's really a cover letter is communication about your overall skills and what you bring to the table succinctly in a letter. It's the same thing like an email. It's the same thing as if you're going for a scholarship and it asks for, what is your purpose statement? Your purpose statement is sometimes wrapped up in that cover letter, because you're basically saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm pursuing, and this is why you should choose me, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just double check. I think another one came in too. Oh, should we mention anything about community service when we did in high school, or even,
Yes.
third year undergrad?
Yes. Remember we talked about a well-rounded candidate? I think it's great to have a section on community. So how are you giving back? For our company, we're all about community. We're all about giving back. So I do think it adds something to your resume to include that kind of information. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially, Jenny, think about it. If you've done Engineers Without Borders and you actually went to another country, or you went to an underserved community, and you helped put together laptops and, technical systems for people to have access to technology, you could use that as a skill you've learned and applied in a real life situation. So never negate, volunteerism and community service, because a lot of times you get a lot of your leadership and even work experience through some of those as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I think that was the last of our questions, if I read them all. Esther, let me know if I missed one of them in the chat window.
We are all good. I think that was all our questions so far.
Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa to talk a little bit more about scholarships. So Lisa, you'll take it from here. She's our Scholars Program Office Manager. So Lisa, it's all yours.
Thank you. Definitely, it has been our pleasure to partner with the SHPE organization, and we're excited to do our second year of scholarships that we're doing through SHPE. You know that we just opened the scholarship portal through the SHPE organization, and there's 2 separate scholarships. So think about it, our bachelor students. If you are currently pursuing a bachelor's degree and you're in your sophomore, junior, or senior year, we have a scholarship specifically for our undergrad for $5,000 that meet this eligibility requirement. And then for those that are pursuing currently a master's or PhD, whether you're in your first year or in your last year or in between, we have a scholarship for $10,000. These scholarships, you can apply annually for these scholarships, and we look forward to definitely sharing the opportunity of scholarships with your colleagues. So for those that are part of SHPE organizations at your local school, whether it be a community college or whether it be a university, please let your friends know in your organizations that these scholarships are readily available to them as well. Okay. Thanks.
Great, Lisa. Then you've got 2 more pages.
Oh, we do have additional scholarships that we offer as well. We have one, it's the Afcia Scholarship, which is really new for us. That's for anybody that is currently an active service member. You can be in any branch of service, Army, Navy, and whatnot, but you could also be a veteran. You're in school full time right now and you're returning back to school for an accredited degree, or you could be a Gold Star family member. And then, of course, there's other scholarships like our Society of Women Engineers, along with the GEM Fellowship. GEM is really focused on master's and PhD. It comes with an internship experience with the company that chooses you, as well as research work that you do at the university. So the combination of the research work you're doing that the university funds and the internship that you get funding for, as well as funding comes from the industry partner, that really helps you pay for your master's and PhD programs. So be sure to check out all of our scholarships that are available. And you're going to get this presentation at the end as well. And I think that's it. Oh, hiring, yes, Jenny, plus.
The most important one. Lisa, is this yours or did you want me to take it?
No, go ahead. You take this one.
Okay, this one is really just telling you we're hiring. We're always hiring. You can see the list of areas where we strongly hire. We've got a lot of opportunities out there. We've got the link here at the bottom that tells you the steps where to go. Step 1 is to fill out a talent form with some basic information about you. And then the step 2 allows you to go into the site and look for opportunities that match your skills.
Yeah. And the cool thing about this is that you filling out the talent form, it really tells us that you were part of our relationship that we have with the SHIP organization. And so coming through this particular talent form, it's basically your legal way of opting in to want to work for Intel by providing us your basic information, what discipline you're studying, when do you graduate, what school you're attending. If you don't see your school in the listing, just choose other and it will allow you to type in your school. But also keep in mind, update your resume. Geni just gave you a ton of great tips around resume building. Make sure that you save it with your name in the document, on the title of the document, and start applying this to jobs. Intel has a great feature in our jobs listing that you can do, and it's called Career Track. That basically you can click on a button and say, hey, I want to do sales and marketing, but I also want to do graphics. I want to do software development. I want to do silicon photonics. The more of those items that you choose, it will start actually generating job opportunities to you. So any jobs that fall within those categories, it will send that information over to you. So that's kind of like the cool thing about you not only updating your resume, but also choosing those career tracks. You will get the type of job descriptions and information that you're looking for in your next employment endeavors.
And then I didn't cover here the top, so we're kind of raising the bar for ourselves, evolving our corporate responsibility strategy. There's a really cool video here. We won't show it now, but it's included here. It's just about 1.5 minutes. And I missed telling you, and I think this is the obvious. If you are interested in Intel or any other company, do the homework on that company. You would be surprised how many candidates don't know anything about the company, and when they're asked, that's a big no-no. We've actually dispositioned candidates even though they were strong, but it told us they weren't really that passionate about our company. There's a really cool video. It's 1.5 minutes, and it tells you a little bit about our future and what we're doing and how we're raising the bar. Probably some really good information that you'd want to have if you are interested in applying for Intel jobs and get an interview. It'd be really cool to have some of those buzzwords available. Just a little tip.
And we're hiring for interns and full-time, so just know both of those will be available out there.
And that's all we had for you. It's 5:45. I don't know if there's any other questions, team?
Nope.
Esther, do we have anything else?
No, I think y'all answered it. I do want to sincerely thank you for your time. I know we had a lot of students tune in today, and we're actually seeing a lot of students watch the videos. You know, schedules are really crazy right now with work and school, so I know a lot of people are going to find, a lot of our SHIP Familia are going to find this very beneficial on our webpage. I'll make sure to put it up. One of the questions was where you could find this video or the slides, and that's on our scholarship webpage. So that's ship.org/students/scholarship, spelled SCHOLARSHPE. I want to thank everyone that joined us today, our amazing speakers, and you all have a great night. We'll see you next time.
Great. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.